I had $7.43 to my name, and the hot dog in my hand was supposed to be dinner. Not lunch, dinner. Because if I ate it now, there'd be nothing left until payday, and payday was 4 days away. I'd worked a double shift clearing storm drains on the east side of the city, and my back felt like someone had folded it the wrong way. My phone buzzed in my pocket. "Lily." "Hey, sweetheart," I said. "Dad, the landlord, came by again." Her voice was careful, the way it gets when she's trying not to worry me. 16 years old and already better at hiding fear than most grown men. "He said rent's due Friday." "I know, baby. I'll figure it out." "I always do." "You always say that. And I'm always right, aren't I?" I forced a laugh. She didn't laugh back. After her mother died 8 years ago, I made one promise to that little girl. She would never go without. I'd broken a lot of promises in my life. Not that one. Never that one. I hung up and stared at the hot dog like it owed me money. Then a small voice spoke up beside me. "I'm hungry." I looked down. An 8-year-old girl stood alone outside the park gate. Plain clothes. Hair a little messy. Nothing about her looked special. She wasn't crying. She was just watching my hot dog with the patient, hopeless look of a kid who's learned not to ask for much. I should have kept walking. I had a daughter at home and 4 days of nothing in front of me. Instead, I broke the hot dog in half. I gave her the bigger piece. "There you go, kid." She ate it in 3 bites, then looked up at me like I'd handed her the moon. "Thank you, mister. Where are your parents?" She shrugged. "My mum's working. She's always working." "She know you're out here alone?" Another shrug. I sat down on the bench. I couldn't leave her there. Wouldn't. We sat, 2 strangers chewing on half a hot dog each, and slowly she started talking. Her name was Sophie. She liked turtles. She didn't like her tutor. And then, swinging her legs, she said it like it was nothing. "My mum owns a company." I smiled. "Yeah, mine owns the moon." Sophie giggled. "No, really. A big one." "Mm-hmm. Sure she does." I wasn't being cruel. Every kid thinks their parent is a superhero. I just figured she'd wandered off from a tired single mum somewhere nearby, same as 100 kids I'd seen at this park. I didn't know I was wrong yet. I didn't know how wrong. That's when I noticed the man. He was standing across the path near the tree line, maybe 40 feet off. Dark jacket, sunglasses, even though the sun was going down. He wasn't reading a phone. He wasn't walking a dog. He was just standing there, facing us, and the moment I looked at him directly, he turned and walked away. Something cold moved through my chest. "Sophie," I said quietly, "you see that man?" She went still. Her legs stopped swinging. "He was here before," she whispered. "By the swings. He watched me when my mum's driver went to find the car." "Driver." "He told me to wait. I got bored. I went to look at the turtles." Her lips started to tremble. "I think I got lost." A driver. A tutor she didn't like. A mum who was always working. Pieces I should have put together started to line up, and I didn't like the shape they made. I pulled out my phone and opened the browser, just to check the local news, get a sense of anything. The alert was right there at the top, glowing in red. Missing, Billionaire Hechiris. 8 sicky wide Circe urch underway. Below it was a photo. Same messy hair. Same plain clothes. Same little girl sitting right next to me on the bench, half a hot dog still in her hand. Sophie Blackwell. Daughter of Victoria Blackwell, founder and CEO of one of the largest technology companies in the country. My mouth went dry. The kid who'd just shared my last meal was worth more than every building I'd ever helped construct, combined 10 times over. And somewhere in this park was a man in sunglasses who had been watching her since before she got lost. "Sophie." I kept my voice steady. "Calm. We're going to call your mum right now, okay? You remember her number?" She nodded fast. I dialed. A clipped professional voice answered on the first ring. Security, not a mother. And the second I said the name Sophie Blackwell and the words City Park, the line exploded into motion. Within 90 seconds, I heard tires. 2 black SUVs came up over the curb, and men in suits poured out and fanned across the green like water breaking through a dam. A woman ran ahead of all of them. No bodyguard pace, no composure, just a mother, heels in her hand, sprinting across the grass. She dropped to her knees and pulled Sophie into her arms so hard the bench scraped the pavement. "I've got you," Victoria Blackwell kept saying over and over. "I've got you, baby. I've got you." For a moment I felt something loosen in my chest. The kid was safe. The story was over. I'd done a good thing, and now I could go home to Lily and figure out rent and never think about any of this again. I started to stand up, to slip away. People like me don't belong in moments like that. Then Sophie pulled back from her mother, pointed across the park toward the tree line, and said the words that changed everything. "Mummy, that's the man, the one who kept watching me. He's still here." I turned. He hadn't left. He was at the edge of the lot now, half hidden behind the SUVs, and he was holding a phone to his ear, not calling for help, not backing away from a swarm of armed security. He was reporting something, watching us, waiting, and then his eyes found mine across all that distance, and he gave me a small, deliberate nod. The kind of nod that says, "I see you too. I know your face now." A bodyguard shouted and broke into a run toward him. The man didn't panic. He simply stepped between two parked cars and was gone, swallowed by the dark, like he'd planned for exactly this. Victoria turned to me then, still clutching her daughter, and for the first time she really looked at me. The tired city worker in a stained work shirt who'd been sitting beside her missing child. "Who are you?" she asked. "And how did you find her?" I opened my mouth to answer, but before I could say a word, one of her security men jogged up, pale, holding a tablet. He leaned down and whispered something to Victoria, and I watched the relief drain straight out of her face, replaced by something far worse. She looked back at the spot where the man had disappeared. Then she looked at me. "That ma'am," she said slowly, "isn't a kidnapper looking for ransom." Her voice dropped. "He works for someone inside my own company, and if you saw his face—" She didn't finish. She didn't have to. Part 2. "If you saw his face," Victoria repeated, "then he saw yours." She said it gently, but the meaning landed like cold water. Whatever this was, I was already in it. I'd stopped being a stranger on a bench the moment Sophie pointed across that park. She offered me a ride. I almost said no. Then I thought about the man's nod, the way he'd memorized me on purpose, and I thought about Lily home alone in our apartment, and I got in the SUV. What I learned over the next hour didn't sound like a kidnapping. It sounded like a hunt. The man's name surfaced fast once security ran his image. A contractor, off the books, paid through a shell account, and the account traced back to a senior executive named Richard Sloane. 58 years old, 20 years at the company, the man Victoria had trusted to run her finance division while she grieved her late husband and ran everything else. "There's an internal review happening," Victoria admitted, staring out the window. "Quiet, numbers that don't add up, money moving in directions it shouldn't. I authorized it 3 weeks ago." Her jaw tightened. "Richard knows." "He must know." "And Sophie?" I asked. Her hands trembled. "Her father left her shares in trust. When she turns 18, she controls a block of votes large enough to remove anyone from the board." She closed her eyes, including Richard. The pieces clicked into place, ugly and complete. A little girl wasn't a ransom target. She was an obstacle. Some men, when they've stolen enough, start to believe the only thing standing between them and safety is whoever can vote them out. I should have felt out of my depth. Instead, I felt that same instinct I trusted my whole life on job sites, the one that tells you a beam is about to fail before the math does. Your security says he just followed her, right? That it's circumstantial. They say there's no proof he intended harm. They're wrong. I turned to face her. He stood in the open with 12 armed men running at him, and he didn't run scared. He reported in. That's not a guy who got caught. That's a guy who isn't finished. Victoria looked at me for a long moment. Then she did something I don't think she'd done in years. She asked an ordinary man for help. "Sophie won't talk to investigators," she said. "She's terrified of all of them, the suits, the questions. But she talked to you." Her voice cracked just slightly. "She shared a hot dog with you. She trusts you. I don't understand it, and I don't have time to. Will you sit with her, just so she'll talk?" I thought about saying I'm nobody. I thought about saying I have rent due Friday and a daughter at home and no business in a billionaire's war. Instead I said, "Yeah, I'll sit with her." Sophie talked to me at the kitchen table the next morning, drawing turtles while she did it, and the details came out. The small ones adults always rush past. The man in sunglasses hadn't just watched her at the park. She'd seen him before. Outside her tutor's building, in the parking garage at her mother's office, near a grey car, and once, she said, he'd been talking to the loud man who smells like coffee and yells at the screen people. Sophie, I said carefully, the loud man, do you know his name? She nodded and pointed at a framed company photo on the wall, at a heavy-set man in an expensive suit standing 2 people away from her mother, Richard Sloane, the contractor in Sloane, meeting in person, weeks before Sophie ever wandered off. That wasn't circumstantial anymore. That was a thread. And Victoria's investigators pulled it hard. Garage cameras confirmed the meeting. The shell account that paid the contractor connected to 3 more, and those 3 connected to nearly $40 million that had quietly walked out of the company over 4 years, dressed up as vendor payments to firms that didn't exist. Sloane hadn't been hiding one crime. He'd been hiding a decade of them, and Victoria's review had been getting close. Close enough that he'd decided the cleanest fix was to make sure a certain 8-year-old never grew up to cast a single vote. He thought he had time. He thought a missing kid scare would derail the audit, throw the company into chaos, buy him room to bury the evidence. He was wrong about the one thing men like him are always wrong about. He assumed nobody ordinary was paying attention. They arrested Richard Sloane on a Tuesday. I wasn't there. I was at work, knee-deep in a drainage culvert, when Victoria called to tell me it was done. Federal investigators had everything. The accounts, the garage footage, the contractor, who folded the second he realized he was the one left holding it. The recovered funds ran past $40 million. Sloane's name came off the building by Friday. He confessed to most of it, Victoria told me, trying for a lighter sentence. A pause. He won't see Sophie's 18th birthday as a free man. He won't see many birthdays as one. And Sophie, asleep. Safe. Asking when the hot dog man is coming back. I heard her exhale, and when she spoke again it didn't sound like a CEO. Ethan, I have a confession. I run a company worth billions. I have 100 people whose entire job is to protect my daughter, and not one of them noticed what a tired stranger noticed in 20 minutes on a park bench. Her voice thinned. I gave Sophie everything except the one thing you gave her in 3 seconds. You saw her. You just saw her. You just saw her. I didn't know what to say to that, so I said the only true thing I had. She's a good kid. She was just hungry. There was a reward, of course. A big one. The kind of number that would have erased every worry I'd ever carried, paid off the apartment, set Lily up for life. I turned it down, not out of pride, out of something simpler. The moment you take money for being decent, you turn the decent thing into a transaction, and I didn't want Sophie growing up thinking that's how kindness worked. I'd shared a hot dog. That was all. I didn't want a check for it. Victoria didn't argue. She just smiled like I confirmed something she'd suspected. Then let me be grateful my own way, she said. 3 months later, Lily came running into the kitchen, phone shaking in her hand, tears already streaming. Dad, I got a scholarship, a full one. Full ride, nursing school, everything, books, housing, all of it. She could barely get the words out. It's anonymous. Some foundation. They said I was selected for character demonstrated by my family. I had to sit down. 8 years of promises I wasn't sure I could keep. 8 years of $7 dinners and 4-day stretches and telling that girl I'll figure it out while lying awake wondering if I actually could. And now my daughter was going to become the nurse she dreamed of being since she was 9. And it wouldn't cost her a thing. I never asked Victoria if it was her. I didn't have to. Some gratitude doesn't need a signature. On a Sunday in late spring, the 4 of us met at the same park, same gate, same bench. I bought a round of hot dogs from the same cart, and this time I didn't count the change in my wallet first. We sat in the sun, a billionaire and a city maintenance worker and their 2 daughters, eating cheap food on a wooden bench like it was the finest meal in the world. Lily and Sophie were already thick as thieves, Sophie peppering my daughter with questions about whether nurses got to keep the rubber gloves. At some point, Sophie leaned against my arm, mustard on her cheek, and looked up at me. Good thing you were hungry that day, she said. I laughed. Then I looked at the empty half of the bench beside us, the spot where a lost little girl had once sat down next to a man with nothing left to give, and somehow given him everything back. "No," I said. I put my arm around her. "You were."